Lansing's only sports station. The Game, 7:30.
Let's play.
Welcome to Be the Referee with the MHSAA's Director of Officials, Sam Davis.
We talk a lot about the need for registered officials, but how do you sign up? The steps are simple. Go to MHSAA.com to the Officials tab and identify the sport or sports you're interested in. Complete the MHSAA Principles of Officiating and the Officials Guidebook exams. The Official Guidebook covers basic elements and procedures for becoming a sports official. The first step of the process covers playing rules, ejection protocols, game assignments, and payment of game fees. Once you pass the exams, it's time to connect with a locally approved officials association. The local associations are the ones that provide the training, whether it's on the court, on the fields, on the mats, or video training, to get that person completely immersed in the rules, mechanics, and coverages of what it takes to become a good official.
Thanks, Sam. You can be a referee. Go online now to register at MHSAA.com. Be the Referee is a production of the MHSAA Network.
The Detroit Red Wings are back for another season on the Lansing Sports Network.
He shoots, he scores on a backhand.
Lansing's Big Talker, 1240 WJIM. Never miss a game again, whether you're on the go or just like doing it the old-fashioned way and sitting around the radio.
Larkin scores from the right side goal line.
Every face-off and every playoff can be heard on Lansing's exclusive home for Detroit Red Wings hockey. 1240 WJIM, Lansing's only home for hockey.
The Game, 7:30 a.m. WVFN.
And a good Saturday morning to everyone out there listening in mid-Michigan on The Game, 7:30 a.m. WVFN and the Lansing Sports Network. This is High School Rewind, the show that recaps the week that was in boys and girls basketball. I am Brock Palmer. I'll take you up until 11 o'clock, and that's when Will Tiemann and Dalton Shetler will take over with the Sports Life. And, of course, this show is sponsored in part by the Lansing Sports Commission. No matter the sport, the Lansing Sports Commission can make your next event your best event. Plan on something greater. Find out more at lansingsports.org. And, of course, Jeff and Chris Metz, Dowding Industries, our title sponsor. If you're wondering what your future holds and you're not going to college, or you found out college just isn't for you, check out the future that skilled trades can offer you. You'll be surprised. Check them out at dowdingindustries.com. Last big week of action around the mid-Michigan area and really around the state before the holiday break. They'll take a couple of days off, after today. There are a couple of games today. One on the boys' side, Paloma Westphalia is playing Grand Rapids Forest Hills Northern. And there's one game on the girls' side as Holt is playing Muskegon Reeths Puffer. But pretty much everything is over until next week. And a good time to take stock of everything that has gone on so far. We are now down to two area boys teams that are undefeated. They are 6-0 Langsburg and 5-0 East Lansing. That's because the game you heard on Tuesday night, DeWitt was undefeated at 6-0, but they lost to Okemos in the game you heard on Tuesday night here on WVFN. It was Okemos winning 58-47, and then Okemos, who was undefeated at 7-0, they played Detroit Catholic Central last night at home and lost 61-42. So that knocked them out of the ranks of the unbeaten. Or the unbeatens. So that means we're down to two area teams. It's Langsburg and East Lansing who are undefeated. East Lansing 5-0, Langsburg at 6-0. Even though they lost last night, the veteran 12th-year head coach for Okemos, Jeff Wonch, was kind enough to join me for a few minutes to talk about his team and the good win earlier this week. And yes, we do have to mention the loss last night to Detroit Catholic Central. But lots of good action around the mid-Michigan area. I talked about East Lansing just at the start. Man, they have just crushed everybody. Schedule's kind of backloaded. They've only played 5 games so far, but in the CAAC Blue opener on Tuesday night at Irvin Johnson Gymnasium at Everett, it was East Lansing winning 73-56 over Everett. I think that's East Lansing's closest game so far this season. And sophomore KJ Torbert, the Okemos transfer, 29 points to lead them in the victory. Big win for them. They are ranked number 2 in the BCAM. That's the Basketball Coaches Association of Michigan poll. They're ranked number 2 in the state. And we'll be seeing a lot of them coming up after the first of the year. They got to play DeWitt twice. They got to play Okemos twice. So they got to play Grand Ledge twice. So a very difficult league schedule. And just reading a little bit of the newsletter that, the Prepapalooza newsletter that Brian Calloway always puts out every week. He's right. The CAAC Blue this year on the boys' side looks to be the best league in the mid-Michigan area. Top-level teams, DeWitt, Okemos, Waverly. You knew Everett was going to be better than they were last year. Grand Ledge is competitive. Holt a little bit down so far this year. They're only 1-4, but they're always tough to play. And, of course, East Lansing. Look like it's turning out that way. Taking a look at some of the other action on the boys' side, and relax, girls basketball fans. We'll get to you, talk about you guys, you ladies, in later on in this segment. But I've talked about Waverly and how good they've been this year, and Derek Thomas, the sophomore, off to a tremendous start this season. Double-double over against Zeeland East earlier this week. 24 points, 10 rebounds. Deontay Pfeiffer, 24 points as well for Coach Rod Watts. Waverly, always difficult to play against. Always have good athletes. Always have good basketball players. They're off to a 5-2 start this season. Congratulations to them. We'll be hearing more from them after the first of the year. Sexton's been off to a slow start this season. They're 3-4 on the season, but you've heard Brian Calloway talk on this show about Keyshawn Somerville. He had 21 points in a victory over Flint Beecher on Tuesday. Mason only played once this week. That was on Tuesday, and won easily at Marshall, 72-50. Kaysen Carswell, the team's quarterback on the state title run, or the state finalist run, rather. 5 3-pointers, 12 of 16 from the field, 31 points. It just shows you. I mean, if you're really good in one sport, for some reason it just translates to other sports. You see it all the time. Football to basketball, football to wrestling, it doesn't matter. And he and a lot of the other football players on Mason's team that's playing basketball now, contributing for them. Let's see here. Ionia is now 5-2 on the season as they were able to beat Hastings earlier this week. That's just some of the action going on Tuesday. Eastern beating Williamston in league action 68-64. That's a very, very good win there for them. And, of course, the game you heard here on the game, 7:30 a.m. WVFN, it was Okemos over DeWitt, 58-47. And it was the Walton brothers that did the trick for him. It was Brennan Walton, 20 points, 6 rebounds. Colin Walton, 19 points, 3 rebounds. He had a block shot as well. And they needed a third scorer, and it was Christian Chu. Despite early foul trouble that limited his effectiveness in the first half, he came out in the second half, scored 11 of his 13 points in the second half. And that was key. And he hit, 7 of 8 free throws in the second half to help put the game away when it was a bit tight in the fourth quarter, and had to shoot free throws, and made enough of them there for that one. That was a very good win there for Okemos. And taking a look at some of the records here on the boys' side, let's quickly go through that. Okemos 2-0 in league play. They are now 7-1. East Lansing 1-0 in the league. That was they won earlier in the week, and they were able to beat Saline on Thursday. We'll touch on that. They are 1-0 in the league, as is Waverly. Waverly's 1-0 in the league. They are 5-2 overall. Everybody else has at least one loss, although Grand Ledge is 1-1 on the season. And going back to Thursday, majority of the games were on Thursday. This week, DeWitt beat Williamston 69-66. Adam Flannery, another kid that's just off to a terrific start. They rebounded from a tough loss to Okemos by winning at home against Williamston 69-66. Adam Flannery, 25 points. Zach Nevison, 14 points. Garrett Gruey, 10 points and 11 rebounds in that game. Ben Smith, who is Williamston's leading scorer, led them with 29 points. Talked about Grand Ledge losing earlier in the week to Caledonia. They were able to come back and win at Holt. Big win for them over their arch rivals, 58-51. Braden James, just a sophomore, 20 points for the Comets. Elijah Hendricks adding 16. Also moving on, Olivet over Schoolcraft, 64-63 in overtime, and congratulations to Olivet star senior Bo Lincoln. He crossed the 1,000-point career plateau with that victory over Schoolcraft. Lincoln, 23 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, 4 steals. Bryce Wine, 19 points in support for Olivet. Let's move on here. Hazlitt got their first win of the season. They're off to a slow start this season, but were able to beat Fowlerville at home 61-51. Travers Sadlerla had 14 points on the night there. Good to see them get their first win. East Lansing crushed Saline 74-45, and Stockbridge beat East Jackson 65-38. I went to the Okemos and Detroit Catholic Central game, and it was all Detroit CC. They had an 18-7 lead at the end of the first quarter. Sam Howard came off the bench. One of their shooters, he had 10 points. He had all of them in the first quarter, including a 4-point play. He had 3 3-pointers, and he got fouled on a 3-pointer and hit the free throw. He ended up with 17 points. He had 3 kids with 17 points. Devin Lee scored 14 of his 17 in the second half. Uchenna Amane scored 11 of his 17 in the second half, and talked about Sam Howard. He had 17 points as well. Okemos struggled offensively all night. Nobody was in double figures, but good to get Colin Alexander back. He's been out with an ankle injury, but he played against Detroit CC. He ended up with 9 points. I got a feeling he's going to get more and more involved in the offense as he gets healthier. The Walton brothers struggled last night. Brennan Walton, the better of the two last night, he had 7 points and 7 rebounds. Colin Walton, 2 points and 4 rebounds. We'll talk to Coach Jeff Wonch here in just a little bit to talk about both the games and his thoughts on the CAAC Blue, which does look like to be the best league in the mid-Michigan area. All right, let's talk about girls basketball and some of the really good action that occurred this week. And, Portland off to a terrific start this season. And the Thalen sisters, Malia and Lily, have Coach Jason Haidt of Portland off to a terrific start. 6-0 on the season. Non-conference wins at East Lansing, and then winning at home over Holt this week. They are 6-0 on the season. They are ranked number 1 in my Lansing area top 10 poll. Oh, and by the way, because of all the games that occurred this week, I'm not going to skip a week. I'll skip a week next week. I'm going to do the boys and girls polls, and they will all show up on the 26th, the day after Christmas, because I'm not going to do it on Monday because nobody's going to be here, including myself. So I'll be doing both polls on both top 10 polls, boys and girls, coming up next Tuesday, and I got a feeling Portland is going to be right there. They are 6-0 on the season, and unlike the boys, there are more undefeated teams right now. They are Portland at 6-0. DeWitt is 6-0 on the season. Ovid Elsie is 6-0. Bath is 5, and then on the CMAC, Bath is 5-0, and Dansville is 4-0 on the season. Some of the games are backloaded for Dansville, and so they're right there with that. Fowler with a good record at 4-1. So they're looking pretty good as well. As far as the leagues go, could be the CAAC White. Portland and Lakewood are undefeated in league play, as is Lansing Catholic. However, Lansing Catholic did lose last night to Ann Arbor Gabriel Richard, 43-30 on the road. They've only played 4 games, but could be one of those teams that has a backloaded schedule in January and February, and will be playing an awful lot after the first of the year. Oh, and yes, Lansing Catholic and Portland. I looked this up before coming on the air today. Lansing Catholic and Portland play game 1 of potentially 3, because they could play in the state tournament. That is January 9th at Lansing Catholic High School. And I'm just going to warn you, if you're listening, I will very likely be there for that one. Portland at Lansing Catholic. Not just to see Lansing Catholic. I've seen Catholic play this year, but have not seen Portland yet this season. So there's that. And as far as how good the leagues are, it's still a little bit early. CAAC White looks pretty competitive so far. So does the CAAC Blue. The CAAC Red looks pretty competitive as well, although the overall records aren't quite as good as some of the other leagues. St. John's has the best overall record at 5-1. But they are 1-1 in league play, while Williamston is 3-1. Hazlitt is at 2-1. So a long way to go there for the CAAC Red standings. Taking a look at some of the other action, DeWitt was able to win earlier. Well, let's look at Holt. Holt over Grand Ledge, 60-51. Holt went to Grand Ledge and was able to be victorious in that one. DeWitt over Okemos, 67-43. Dansville, we've talked about Megan Zeitz, terrific guard they've got there. Over 1,000 points scored. Now, she had 26 in their victory over Saranac earlier this week. Langsburg over Perry, 47-23. Hazlitt over Eaton Rapids, 67-21. Some of the action that occurred earlier this week. Fowler over Pewamo Westphalia, 49-43. That's a very, very good win there for them. Taking a look at some of the girls' action on Thursday, St. John's over Grand Ledge, 46-39. DeWitt beat Williamston, two good teams there, winning at DeWitt, 45-37. Madison Ewell, 26 points, lead the Panthers to the victory there. Carly Dennis, 10 points, but 7 for 7 from the free throw line, and she had 8 rebounds as well. Bath over Potterville. Bath doesn't get talked about a heck of a lot, but they're off to a good start, 5-0 on the season. They beat Lansing Christian earlier this week and beat Potterville 41-17. Aubrey Shibley, 10 points, 5 rebounds in that low-scoring game there. Hazlitt over Fowlerville, 67-21. Lakewood beat Eastern, 58-21. Portland St. Pat's losing to Grand Rapids West Catholic, 61-33. But St. Pat's playing bigger schools, not a shock for them. They're the smallest school in the Mid-Michigan area, unafraid really to play anybody there. Sexton got their first win in girls basketball this season. They beat Everett 43-31. Okemos over Charlotte 59-47. And I mentioned last night, Lansing Catholic lost to Ann Arbor Gabriel Richard 43-30. The defending state champions 2-2 on the season, but the teams they've lost to, Detroit Renaissance and Ann Arbor Gabriel Richard, two top-level teams statewide, as is Lansing Catholic. And again, they'll be heard from in the CAAC White before this is over with, and they'll be heard from in the state tournament. You just can count on that. So that's what it is in the area. On the girls' side, let's quickly look at the standings here. DeWitt and Holt 2-0 in the CAAC Blue. East Lansing is 1-0 in the CAAC Blue. They're a 4-2 overall. Williamston leading the CAAC Red with a 3-0 record. Portland and Lakewood undefeated, 2-0 in the CAAC White. Lansing Catholic just played one league game so far, 1-0. And so long way to go there. In the CMAC, Dansville's 3-0 in the league. Fowler's 3-0 in the league. Bath is 3-0 in the league. Langsburg is 2-1. And don't count out Portland St. Pat's. They're 1-2 in the league right now, but they're 3-2 overall. And Ovid Elsie, again, they were quarterfinalists last year in Division III. They are 6-0 right now. Morris 3-1, and Leslie is 4-2. So still a lot of games to be played here. There'll be a lot of jamborees and a lot of get-togethers, and these 4-team tournaments that you see at these schools. That'll be happening in the upcoming week, and we will have High School Rewind next Saturday morning, 10 a.m. until 11. That's coming up next week on December 30th. And so looking forward to that. Trying to get Mark Ewell, the executive director of the MHSA, on. Had him on last year. Right about this time, we'll try to get him on again for next week and talk about some of the changes in high school basketball in the state of Michigan, most notably the new foul rule, which is similar to the NBA rule and is exactly the same as women's college basketball. No more 1-and-1 free throws. On the fifth team foul of the quarter, you're shooting 2 free throws right on through the end of the quarter, and then the fouls reset at the end of each quarter. I want to talk to him about the thought process there and a few other things involving high school basketball. But coming up on the other side of this break, it is Jeff Wonch, the veteran head coach for the Okemos Wolves. His team is off to a good start this season. They are 7-1 on the year. We'll talk to him about his team and about the area in boys basketball as a whole. You're listening to High School Rewind on the game, 7:30 a.m. WVFN, brought to you by the Lansing Sports Commission and by Jeff and Chris Metz and Dowding Industries.
Here are 5 more good reasons for multi-sport participation. Multi-sport athletes are more coachable. They have higher athletic ceilings. They become better talent in the long run. They have higher sports IQs. Their sports skills transfer, and they are better teammates. Multi-sport participation is cross-training for life. Learn more at the MHSAA website. A message from the Michigan High School Athletic Association, promoting the value and values of educational athletics.
Sure, you could listen to static. Or you could get the free Game 730 AM mobile app in your app store today and listen longer without the interruptions from the static. Listen live to all your favorite moments in sports and hear all the action. The Game 730 AM app also has tons of great restaurant deals for you. It's waiting for you right now in the app store today. The Game 730 AM app is powered by Driven Collision. We make friends by accident.
WVFN.
Well, welcome back to High School Rewind on the Game 730 AM WVFN, brought to you by the Lansing Sports Commission and by our title sponsor, Jeff and Chris Metz and Dowding Industries. We're happy to be joined now by the 12th-year head coach for the Okemos Wolves. He is Coach Jeff Wonch. Of course, he coached his alma mater, Bath High School, to the Class C state title in 2007. But it's hard to believe you've been at Okemos 12 years, Coach.
Yeah, time flies, doesn't it?
It does. It goes real fast, and the season goes fast. Too. It just seems like the season just started, and there's a lot of teams, including yourself, that have already played a third of their schedule so far. You've played 8 games. There's other teams that have only played 4 or 5 games. It's just it's really weird how that works. Your thoughts? Your thoughts on your season so far? 7-1 on the year. We'll talk about the games in particular this week. The game we did on Tuesday night at DeWitt High School, that was definitely in the positive for you. 58-47 over a real good DeWitt squad. 10 of 14 from the free throw line. You out-rebounded them 26-20. And, man, the Walton twins were just terrific. 20.6 rebounds for Brennan and 19 points, 13 rebounds, and a block for Colin Walton. Let's start talking about those two kids right there.
Yeah, absolutely. They've so far this season, they've kind of been a staple for us, our go-to guys, the offense going through them. I was really proud of all the guys in the DeWitt game because we just got off to a slow start and battled back just to tie it up at halftime, and then got to put some things together in the third quarter and was able to hit free throws and just kind of execute down the stretch. So I was really proud of the resiliency of our guys in that game and just throughout the season so far. And like you said, I remember a time, it wasn't that long ago, when everyone just played 4 games before the holiday break, and we're sitting at 8 games going into the holiday break. So that's just, it's interesting.
So your schedule is a little bit more front-loaded than some of the other teams that have them backloaded. They're going to have a busy January and February. That must mean you got a couple of weeks in January and February. You're only playing 1 game a week.
Yep. So there'll be some weeks just like that.
Okay.
We've got just 1 game here in the next couple weeks, and then there'll be a few 1-game weeks.
Okay. All right. Well, going back to the DeWitt game, you always talk about having a third scorer. If you've got 2 dominant scorers, and you did against DeWitt with the Walton twins, but Christian Chu came through in the second half. He scored 11 of his 13 points in the second half, saddled with early foul trouble. He picked up a couple of early fouls and had to sit for a good portion of the first half, but he came through, and you talked about the free throws. He went 7 for 8 in the second half and hit 5 of 6 big free throws in the final 3 minutes to put the game away.
Yeah, and that's and as you know, that's the name of the game in the fourth quarter. If you got a little bit of a lead, you're going to get fouled, and then it just matters if you're making your free throws and standing tall defensively. And so it was nice that Christian was able to step up, and he is a little foul prone too. So it's something he's working on because he's so quick and his hands are so quick, and he's learning some good habits defensively, and I think it'll pay off as the season goes.
We're talking with Jeff Wonch, the 12th-year head coach for Okemos. They are 7-1 on the season, 2-0 in the CAAC Blue. And Coach, coming into the season, you had lost 3 players to transfer. Trevor Smith moved to the Detroit area, going to be playing at Birmingham Brother Rice. KJ Torbert transferred to East Lansing, and Brandon Mercer, transferred to Holt. Because of all of that, and everybody knew about those guys last year. Are you surprised at all that your team's 7-1? Because I think a lot of people from the outside looking in, like myself, looking in, it's like, oh wow, they're 7-1. I'm surprised by that. Are you surprised by it?
No, not at all. Just because, like, these guys they're in the gym all the time, and they're hard workers, and I think a lot of times just that trickle down effect of moving to where you wanted, or trying to create maybe an environment that's just a little bit different, just trickle down from the college game, and so everyone's making decisions and what they think is best, and what we know is we just got a core group of guys here that are really about unity and playing together and doing things for the right reasons, and we're really proud to have these guys. So it doesn't really surprise me all that much, just because these guys put a lot of time into their game, and just being great people and great athletes. A lot of multi-sport athletes on this team, and they're a joy to coach. They're fun to be in the gym with.
And another kid that was out in the Tuesday game was Colin Alexander. You got him back for the CC game, and he struggled a little bit early on. He ended up with 9 points and 3 rebounds, but you got to be happy to have him back as part of your rotation.
Yeah, absolutely. And he came back, and he was exactly what we needed defensively. And he was just a little rusty offensively. And all our guys were having trouble finishing, and he was one of them too. But I thought he did a terrific job on Catholic Central's TJ Nadeau. Because he's a terrific shooter, terrific player, and he was giving him struggles. But Catholic Central had some depth and scored from some different areas. But it'll be nice to get Colin back in the flow.
Yes, well, you led me into the Detroit Catholic Central loss. First of all, kudos to both teams for CC willing to come to the Lansing area to play to one of the better teams in the area, and kudos to you for wanting to play one of the most storied programs. Name whatever sport it is, and Detroit CC is probably really good at it, in it. And I was really impressed with Detroit Catholic Central. Devin Lee, Uchenna Amane, and backup guard Sam Howard all had 17 points. That was that they were their leading scorers. And you talk about TJ Nadeau, one of their better players. Colin Alexander did a real good job on him. Only 6 points, 6 rebounds. But other guys came in and hurt you. Sam Howard really hurt you in the first half. He had 10 points in the first quarter, including a 4-point play that was just huge. He just came in and made everything he threw up.
Yeah. When a guy does that, when he comes off the bench and just kind of is a big spark for a team, it can be rough on the other team because, you're not necessarily thinking about him as the guy scoring all the points. Those other guys you mentioned were top on our list. So when he came in and, caught fire, that kind of set us back a little bit. And we were struggling offensively already. So just kind of had us on our heels.
Was it, what was it, a matter of execution or just really, really good defense from CC?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
We were a little stagnant on offense, and they were tough. But, they had some guys inside that could defend. And, obviously their guards on the outside were doing a really nice job too. So I like the game just because it lets our guys know, how good we need to be. And, we're not there yet. We've just got a lot of work to do. And so it's just one of those games before break where you take it the positive way, kind of sets the tone for the break, about getting to practice and getting better. Because we knew we weren't, the best we could be quite yet. We have a long ways to go, and that game just kind of emphasized that. So just progress as the season goes.
What'd you tell your kids after that loss? They certainly didn't expect to lose by 19, and if they were going to lose, you figured it would be close, and it really wasn't. What'd you tell your kids after the game?
Just nothing that they didn't already know.
Okay.
That we didn't play our best game. There were still some things to be proud of, but it was more about just let's get in the gym, let's get better, and then have a nice break with your families. That's pretty much what it was about. So
okay.
When you play a game like that, really, there's nothing to lose except, the game itself. So you just kind of throw it out there and do the best you can and hope you come out with the win. And if you don't, you learn from it and move on.
Yeah, and yelling at them after something like that really doesn't do any good because they already know they just played. Yeah, that doesn't do any good. Brian Calloway, Prep Sports Editor of the Lansing State Journal, he's going to be on here in about 10 to 15 minutes or so. But reading his Prepapalooza newsletter, I was reading it this morning just before coming on the air, and I agree with him, and I think you probably will agree. The CAAC Blue, man, looks to be absolutely loaded. We got DeWitt at 7-1 on the season. Waverly's 5-2. Grand Ledge is 5-3 right now. You know about East Lansing; they're 5-0 on the season, and Everett's 3-2. this is going to be an extremely competitive CAAC Blue, as evidenced by those overall records. And it's going to be a fight right to the end. And you guys are one of the favorites. You're undefeated in league play as well as East Lansing right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Waverly.
Yeah, and when you said it exactly right, East Lansing's probably the front runner, and then nipping at their heels is almost everybody else.
Seems like it.
So, yeah, and it's really hard to pick, like what's going to happen, because there's going to be some really good teams that probably finish about 500 in the league, just because playing everybody twice, and teams know each other really well, and they all have great coaches, and it's going to be fun. I know it's something our guys are looking forward to, and basketball is really good in the area, like you said. So, yeah, CAAC Blue is tough as usual. Yeah,
and it is probably the best league right now, because you figure Mason's going to be the heavy favorite in the CAAC Red once again. Mm-hmm. The CAAC White looks to be pretty competitive right now, but just not the depth that it seems to be in the CAAC Blue. We're talking with Jeff Wonch, the 12th year head coach for the Okemos Wolves. Coach, major rule change this past off season, going to the women's college basketball rule, and a rule very similar to the NBA. 5 fouls per quarter, no more 1-and-1. And if you get on your 5th foul, it's 2 free throws, no more 1-and-1s. What do you like the rule so far, or is it still kind of wait and see?
When we first started, I kind of didn't have a big opinion about it at all. Wasn't sure how much it was going to change anything. So I guess I still don't have any strong opinions about it. The one thing I've noticed is more teams seem to have fouls to give in the fourth quarter when it's time to foul. And maybe that's the purpose of the rule, is just to get more flow going into the game, less stoppages when teams, get to 7 fouls in the third quarter in the previous rule. And I think it's worked. There seems to be more flow, the resetting at the fourth quarter. I don't mind it. That's what I've noticed the most, even just watching game film. There's just teams that have a lot of fouls to give, and the team that's getting fouled is taking the ball out, 3-4 times in a row, trying to get the ball in bounds, which is a challenge as well. So I guess I don't have any strong opinions about it. I've talked to a lot of people who do have strong opinions that they don't like it. But it doesn't bother me all that much.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'm jury's still out on that one. I did notice in the game against DeWitt, not having enough fouls really hurt DeWitt, because you went into kind of a keep away game with about 3.5 minutes left, and DeWitt had only 1 foul, and then they had to foul a whole bunch to get in the bonus to stop the clock. Advantage to you, but there may be games where you may have to do that, and it could be it could be a detriment. It could be a detriment there. The 2 other things I wanted to get to, the people that are for a shot clock in high school basketball in Michigan, the voices are getting louder. I see both sides of the argument. Your thoughts on a shot clock in the state of Michigan? I know other states do it, but they don't do it here in Michigan. Your thoughts?
Yeah, the shot clock would make the game more exciting. I think that's pretty unanimous. I do think that it raises some issues just with game workers and things like that. Sometimes you go to places and they barely have anyone to run the clock.
Right.
In the book.
Yes.
So it just brings in some issues that, and it's hard to ignore some of the statistics too, that most possessions don't last very long. They just don't. But we're coming from a game where we played last night, and I think Catholic Central, it felt like they took a minute off the clock on the very first possession. So, it makes the game more exciting for sure. The logistics of it, I do think, are a challenge at a lot of schools. So I see both sides as well.
Yeah, I do too. I just think for people that say, "Oh, we got to get a shot clock. Got to get a shot clock." Yeah, exactly. It would have a better flow. You would. A lot of people say, "Yeah, you got to actually play basketball in the last 3 minutes. You got to run your regular offense with 3 minutes to go when you're up by 6 points or 7 points." When a lot of teams go to some type of a delay offense, which without a shot clock is understandable, but. Like you said, logistically, there's a lot of small gyms in the state of Michigan. It's not just the big gyms like Macomb, Dakota, or Don Johnson Fieldhouse, where you have big gyms and you have room to put somebody at the table just to operate the shot clock. Because, Coach, you can't have somebody do the scoreboard and then do the shot clock at the same time. There's too much, chance for errors. You got to have somebody sitting at the table literally just doing the shot clock. And also, one other thing, you can't have one shot clock. You got to have two, one at each end of the floor. That costs money. And there's a lot of schools that don't have a heck of a lot of money, especially in northern Michigan and the UP. So I see both sides of it. I understand it from the basketball side. But logistically, it's a lot more difficult than people think.
Yeah, and people just want to say, yes, let's go. They do it in other states. But I do think it's something that has to be figured out. And if we really want to get there, which I think most people do, and coaches do too, it's just it's a challenge. It's just something we all have to figure out.
Jeff Wonch, 12th year head coach for the Okemos Wolves. Next to last question here. A couple of years ago, the MHSAA moved up from 20 games to 22 regular season games, which I am absolutely all for. I would love to see him get to 24 eventually, 26 at the absolute max. Mark Ewell told me last year right about this time that this was kind of a trial balloon, kind of an experiment to see how it works, and may eventually get to 24 or a 26. Your thought on the expanded schedule from what historically has been 20 games is now 22?
Yeah, love it. More games is absolutely where we need to go. I also want to be careful with that one too, because a lot of the players come from, they're playing a lot of AAU and they're playing, 3-4 games in a day. And I don't think that's what high school basketball is about, where you start cramming games like back to back to back or something like that.
No.
I think it's important that, coaches and teams do have, at least a day, but specifically 2 days, just to prepare, where we're watching game film and teaching and, putting our teams in the best spots and keeping them healthy too. So I do think we need to be careful with that. But, our season is one of the longest seasons. And I do think there's space for tournaments and, having more games was the right move.
Yeah, more games, a little bit less practice might be good for everybody, coaches and players. And also, the COVID year, hey, kind of experimented with the COVID year, teams playing 3 games in 1 week just to get as many games as possible. Well, that clearly showed, and Mark Ewell agreed, that playing 3 games in 1 week didn't adversely affect the health of the players, which you just touched on.
Yeah, yep. And I just, you want every game to matter. You want every game to be a game that you're preparing for and not just, we have another game today or we have another game today. So I think, it's just some thought put into that. But in general, the more games was the right way to go.
And finally, Coach Jeff Wonch in his 12th year at Okemos. Your team's 7-1 right now. You're better than what a lot of people on the outside looking in thought you would be, and you told me you weren't surprised. What are things that your team needs to work on to keep this run going and challenge for the CAAC Blue title and get into that stacked district in Mason, which is just incredible? Only a 5-team district, and yet pretty much anybody in that district could win it.
Yeah, I think we're just kind of scratching the surface as far as talent on our team. There's some guys that, haven't necessarily figured it out yet on our team. And, I think we do have a little more depth than what we showed so far. So that's definitely something we're working on. Colin and Brennan are, 2 guys that everyone's going to be preparing for. But we have some really tough guards and some guys that are ready to step up and maybe just haven't made that step yet. So, we still have a long ways to go, and I'm really excited about this group of guys just because their unity is so strong, and they're all playing for the right reasons. So I think it's going to be a really enjoyable season.
Yeah, just so people know, the Mason district coming up at the end of February and early March. East Lansing, Holt, Everett, Mason, and Okemos. You've got likely 2 league champions right there, and the teams that don't win a league title out of all of that are going to be very good as well. Man, that's a tough draw.
Yeah, and it's a tough draw for everybody.
It is.
Yeah, some districts just get loaded like that, and districts are always, I don't know if I've ever felt an easy district before, but yeah, this is, like you said, it's a loaded district, and but that's why the kids play the games, and that's why coaches coach, and it's going to be fun.
It will be. It's going to be a fun season coming up after the first of the year. Coach Jeff Wonch in his 12th season for the Okemos Wolves. Coach, thanks so much for coming on. Congratulations on the start so far, and we'll talk to you again down the road.
Yes, thanks for having me on.
All right, Coach Jeff Wonch joining me here on High School Rewind. We'll take a time out and come back. Brian Calloway, the prep sports editor of the Lansing State Journal, LSJ.com. He's coming up after the break. This is High School Rewind on the game 730 AM WVFN, brought to you by Doubting Industries and by the Lansing Sports Commission.
Health concerns in high school sports go beyond physical injuries. The mental well-being of our young people is a hotter topic than ever before. The Michigan High School Athletic Association website has resources to help adults and students recognize potential problems and deal with them in a positive way. You can learn more about these mental health resources on the Health and Safety page of the MHSAA website. A message from the MHSAA promoting the value and values of educational athletics.
Somehow Anderson gets the ball, and it goes to Edgar for the slam dunk. Oh, man, he went high and ran that puppy home. You talk about in your face.
This is Will Tiemann, the voice of Michigan State basketball. Join us on the Spartan Network as we celebrate 125 years of Spartan basketball. Powered locally on the Lansing Sports Network by Hudson Incorporated, Dowding Industries, Chupan & Sons Recycling, and Whitelaw PLLC.
Lansing Sports Leader, the game, 730 AM.
Welcome back to High School Rewind on the game, 730 AM WVFN. Brock Palmbush here for another 15 minutes or so. Happy to be joined once again by the prep sports editor of the Lansing State Journal, LSJ.com. I think we're catching him in transit somewhere, but he's Brian Calloway, and he's joining us now. Hello again, sir.
Hey, how you doing, Brock?
Yeah, no, doing good. Read your Prepapalooza newsletter here that I got this morning, and I totally agree. At least on the boys' side, anyway, it sure looks like the CAAC Blue has the power. DeWitt, I'm just looking at the overall records. DeWitt 7-1, Okemos 7-1, Waverly 5-2, Grand Ledge 5-3, East Lansing 5-0 on the season, and Everett 3-2. Holt's 1-4 on the season, but they've been competitive and they got a good win over Sexton so far. Man, it does. There's been years where, you could say the red or the white are better leagues, but this year it sure looks early on that the CAAC Blue has the power.
No, it does. And, if you look at most of those teams, I mean, the losses are to each other. DeWitt's only losses to Okemos, which happened earlier in the week.
Mm-hmm.
Everett's lost 2 games, and both of those losses are to East Lansing and Okemos, which, so far look to be maybe the 2 teams to beat in the league so far. Maybe Waverly should be up in that category as well, too. But, yeah, I mean, Grand Ledge is having some success early on as well, too. So definitely a lot of good basketball on the boys' side in the CAAC Blue so far to start the season. And East Lansing just looks to be a very special team. I've seen them twice now. Saw them earlier this week against Everett, and man, are they impressive.
Yeah, they are. We saw them against Lansing Catholic first week of the season, and they just pressed them right off the floor. It was just so impressive with their quickness. Schedule's a bit backloaded. Yeah, they've only played 5 games where some teams have played 8 already. That's just a weird imbalance, to this. I'm not sure there's really anything that can be done about it because some of these teams do play during the holiday break. They play at these jamborees, and some of these schools play in their own they host their own holiday tournament, or they play in one of these 4-team holiday tournaments that you see all the time.
Yeah, teams like East Lansing and, Waverly's one of them as well, too. I mean, they'll try to get into some of these, high-class, events that are going on around the state as well, too, to, test themselves and better prepare themselves for the state tournament as well, too. So maybe that's why you see, a little bit of the schedule like that as well, too. And obviously East Lansing, the night that everybody else opened up CAAC Blue play, obviously there's only 7 teams in the league, so they were the team that was didn't have the league game the first week when the league games actually began, which was last Friday. So they didn't open up the league until Tuesday against Everett. So, yeah, it's obviously that creates a little bit of trickiness when you have an uneven amount of teams in the league like the CAAC Blue has as well, too. But, it all sorts itself out in the end.
It will. They'll all end up playing the same amount of league games and all of that. Taking a look at some of the other action, I mean, Mason is just 1 basket away from being undefeated. 5-1 right now. Teams like Eastern and St. John's that have struggled at the start of the season, they seem to be regaining altitude. Eastern at 4-4 rather. St. John's got off to just a terrible start, and they're now 3-5 on the season. So you can't count them out yet. And in the CAAC White, it looks like it's going to be Charlotte. It looks like it's going to be Sexton. It looks like it's going to be Ionia and Portland and Olivet. Competitive as well. Congratulations to Bo Lincoln reaching 1,000 career points. And Portland looks to be better than they have been in recent years. Off to a 5-1 start under Coach Luke Pohl.
Yeah, Portland's interesting just because obviously they had so many players that were out just because of the state tournament run that they made in the football and getting into the semifinals. And then you had Dom Navarra, who is a football quarterback, is one of their better players for Portland. So, they were a team that was always going to be interested in that league. And then obviously Olivet, which is a team that dominated the GLAC, and they had, a 4-year varsity star like Bo Lincoln, back in the fold as well, too. It would be interesting. I was kind of interested to see how they would stack up in the CAAC White there. And obviously, I think they lost to Sexton early on in conference play, but outside of that, they've been pretty good as well, too. So, I think that league is going to be an interesting race to follow, with obviously Charlotte being a defending champion. Sexton was in the mix, and obviously they have the very talented Keyshawn Somerville. So, I think that's going to make them a factor. And Sexton has lost. Most of their losses are the teams from the CAAC Blues, so they played a very, very tough schedule as well, too. So, I think the CAAC White's just going to be one of those interesting leagues that's pretty open, that a lot of different teams can have the capability to win it. And I think Mason's obviously the favorite in the CAAC Red, but kind of looking to see what happens behind them. I think it can be anybody's game, just kind of based on how the teams in that league have played so far.
Brian Calloway, prep sports editor of the Lansing State Journal, LSJ.com, joining me now. Talked about, all the power that's in the CAAC Blue. It looks like it's top-heavy in the CMAC, and it looks like it's two teams. Once again, it looks like it's going to be Langsburg and PW. Langsburg, only them and East Lansing undefeated in the area. Langsburg is 6-0 right now. They are 5-0 in the CMAC. PW right behind them at 4-1. Everybody else has 2 or more losses. I know it's still early, but it looks like it's going to be Langsburg and PW, and it could come down to that second game, PW at Langsburg later on in the season. They played a classic earlier this season. Langsburg winning on the road in overtime.
Yeah, no, they did play a classic. And, PW was an interesting case this year. Obviously losing a star like Jamison Eklund, who's now playing at Lansing Community College. I think there was a little bit of uncertainty, with losing him and some other pieces that they had from last year as well, too. Maybe how good could they be? But obviously they're showing that, Grady Eklund, the younger brother of Jamison, he's been big for them as well, too. And they've had other guys step up as well, too, that have put them right in the thick of things in the CMAC. And, Langsburg, obviously, Xander Woodruff, a very special talent. He's off to a terrific start for them. And, they're doing just as good as, what we expected after they made the deep run last year as well, too. So I don't think there's any surprise that Langsburg is in this position. And, PW just keeps finding a way to reload as well, too. So definitely those two are kind of looking like the front runners in the CMAC. But, Fowler's a team that would be interesting to watch in that league as well, too, in my mind.
You could never count out Fowler there, but it looks like Langsburg and PW once again. On the girls' side right now, so impressed with Portland. I'm looking forward to seeing them. I know they play at Lansing Catholic on January 9th. I know they'll be itching to play each other, but, man, Portland, some great wins this week. Coming from behind to beat East Lansing on the road and beating Holt at home behind the Thalen sisters, Malia and Lily. I said at one point I wasn't sure that, I thought they were like Malia or Lily. It was the same person. No, they're sisters. 2 separate people. They're sisters. And they're leading the way for Coach Jason Hayes. 6-0 overall, 2-0 in the league.
Yeah, it's been a very impressive start for Portland with what they've been able to do. Obviously, a pretty big week for them, knocking off an East Lansing team and then, knocking off Holt as well, too. And, obviously, Holt isn't exactly the same as what they are last year, but they still have Rima Dozier. So, I think, that's, a pretty good win for them. And just, with what they've been able to do in their early season, it's looking like, them and Lansing Catholic, could be right there challenging for the CAAC White Championship once again.
Yeah, and they play game 1 of 2 on January 9th at Lansing Catholic, and I know we'll both probably be there for that one. CAAC Blue right now, you touched on Holt a little bit. Yeah, Rima Dozier, Allie Metzger, Claire Tobias. You don't have Janae Tyler, and that makes a huge difference, but they're still competitive. But they're leading the way right now is DeWitt, and they're terrific guards for Coach Bill McCullen, and that's Tara Kearns and Maddie Ewell. Both are off to terrific starts this season.
No, they are, and actually, I think we both saw them last Friday when they played at Grand Ledge. Mm-hmm. And Tara Kearns was terrific in that game as well. She had a pretty big second half. I think she scored all 15 of their points in the third quarter in that game as well too. But with those two, I mean, you knew that DeWitt was going to be able to have a lot of success, and obviously for them, it's about bringing up some of those other younger players that joined the varsity level to speed, and to make that. Coach McCullen, kind of have another special team that he can put together another special season. But obviously, those are two big pieces from a team that made it to a regional final last year, and they're still only juniors as well, too.
I know.
So they've got a lot of varsity experience under their belts because they've been playing on the court since they were freshmen. But yeah, those two definitely have DeWitt in a good spot, and I think that they're going to be a big factor in the CAAC Blue, and we'll see kind of who else will be in the mix with them.
Finally, in the CMAC, this looks to be, pretty competitive at the top as well. Dansville's undefeated. Bath is undefeated right now. Fowler undefeated in league play after beating Portland St. Patrick. Langsburg is 2-1 in the league, even though they're only 500 right now. It's still early, but the top half of the league looks pretty good right now. You can never count out PW, even though they're in, 6th place right now, in the 6th or 7th place in the league right now. You can never count them out, but... Dansville, Fowler, St. Pat's, Bath, off to a great start this season. Didn't expect Bath to be one of the undefeated teams right now, but under a new first-year coach, Gabe Soa, who transferred over from the boys' team to coach the girls' team, they're looking pretty good. Bath is, because they won twice this week, 5-0 overall, 3-0 in the league.
Yeah, Bath is definitely kind of the surprise of that bunch. But there's school that has some pretty good athletes there as well too, and some girls that have been around at the varsity level for some time as well too. So they have the experience going for them. But obviously Dansville, the defending league champion, and Megan Zeitz, who we talked about Xander Woodruff, players off to great starts. I mean, she's off to an excellent start for the Aggies there, and it's been very key for them. So, and Portland St. Patrick, Fowler, like you said, I mean, a lot of the teams that have done some very good things in the early stages of the season, which is going to make what's kind of next to come in January when things start picking up again. It's going to make it fun.
And finally, Ovid Elsie, they were quarterfinalists in Division III. They beat Dansville at Dansville to win that regional last year. They're off to another terrific start under Coach Dr. Ryan Cunningham, off to a 6-0 start led by Ava Bates and others.
Yeah, they have some talented pieces coming back as well too. Ava Bates, Northern Michigan commit, and they had a few other key players from that team last year, even though they lost, they've got a couple of big pieces, but they seem to be right, back in the thick of things and kind of picking up where they left off of last year when they quarterfinal Louisville.
Yeah, Brian, I'm beginning to lose you here, so I'll let you go here. Thanks so much for coming on. I'm going to try to get Mark Ewell on next week. May have you on next week, but if not, Brian, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and if we don't talk to you next week, we'll certainly talk to you after the first of the year.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me, Brock.
All right, Brian Calloway, prep sports editor of the Lansing State Journal, LSJ.com. Yes, we will have a high school rewind next week, 10 a.m. until 11 on December 30th. Looking forward to that. Coming up tonight, 7:05 p.m., Detroit Pistons basketball, trying to break that long losing streak. They're playing the Brooklyn Nets tonight. You'll hear it here on WVFN beginning at 7:05. And over on 1240 WJIM tonight, it's Detroit Red Wings hockey. Wild game last night over Philadelphia, 7-6 in a shootout. Won it in a shootout. And so they're playing the New Jersey Devils tonight over in Jersey. 6:45 airtime with Ken Cal and Paul Woods. That's on WJIM. And again, the Pistons here on WVFN. Tomorrow, it's nachos and kneecaps. 11 a.m. until noon. The Lions live and local Lions pregame show. 11 to 12, myself and Beanie Howell. And then at 12 noon, it's Detroit Lions football, trying to win their first division title since 1993. It's the Detroit Lions against the Minnesota Vikings. Sports Network pregame at 12 noon here on WVFN and on Classic Rock 94.9 MMQ. And then we got NFL Sunday Night Football. That's at 7:30 tomorrow night. Want to thank Jeff Wonch for coming on the show today, the veteran 12th-year head coach for the Okemos Wolves, and, of course, Brian Calloway, the prep sports editor of the Lansing State Journal. Thank you for coming on as well. And we thank you for listening. This has been High School Rewind here on the game, 7:30 a.m. WVFN, brought to you by Jeff and Chris Metz and Doubting Industries, as well as the Lansing Sports